Well, more reaction now to that Prince Andrew bombshell, the disgraced Duke reaching an out-of-court settlement with his Australian accuser. It means there'll be no court case for him. Let's bring in Royal Editor at the Daily Mirror, Russell Myers in the UK. Russell, good morning to you. This is big news. Did it come as a surprise to you?
Well, morning, Karl. I think it's come as a surprise to everybody. But, you know, I think Prince Andrew has had his back up against the wall, to be honest, with this case. And that has brought not shame and disgrace for his own reputation, but also hugely humiliating for the rest of the royal family. And certainly the Queen, Prince Charles and Prince William have been completely united in trying to get him to sort this mess out, certainly because the Queen's Platinum Jubilee this year, huge celebrations due to be taking place later on in the summer. And this has been hanging over it like a rather awful smell, to be honest.
The problem, the issue here is that he doesn't have to, well, he hasn't really claimed for anything responsibility here apart from having a link to Epstein. I mean, were you surprised too that that's all he had to admit to?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, for a man who has denied or saying he hasn't had any recollection of meeting Virginia Giuffre, he's also denied the allegations of ever sleeping with her. He's now paid her an absolutely staggering sum, we believe in the region of about £10 million, in order to make this case go away. So in terms of his own reputation, there will be plenty of finger-pointing to suggest, well, if he wasn't prepared to stand up and clear his name, but was prepared to sign an awfully large cheque, I don't think there can ever be a way back to public life for him.
I thought for sure it was heading to court. I thought that she was that adamant that she would make him listen to all those accusations in a court of law. I guess there was speculation that there'd be some kind of settlement, but I thought it might be closer to the date.
No, I think you're right. I think, you know, Virginia Giuffre, for her part, has carried herself very well throughout this whole tawdry saga. And she's become a poster girl for the Me Too movement. I mean, for her part, she has not only got a huge settlement herself, but Prince Andrew has agreed to make a donation to her victims' charity. He's also essentially apologised for his association with Jeffrey Epstein and said that he will work together with victims. Whether what that means, we don't necessarily know at the moment.
But no apology to her directly.
But no apologies to her. And you know, there's very careful wording in this settlement. And I suppose money talks at the end of the day. And the people who will be breathing a sigh of relief for the royal family. OK, the Queen stripped him of his HH title last month, as we know. How long before he's back working for her? Well, I don't think there's a way back for him. I mean, the people that I'm speaking to at the palace are saying that there has been so much levelled at him in this whole awful saga. I mean, the way he's carried himself has been an utter disgrace, to be honest, in certain circles. So he will feel that he still has much to offer public life, but I don't think there's many people fighting his case at the moment. All right, let's see. Good on you, mate. Thank you. Appreciate it, Russell.
We're joined now by high-profile attorney and long-time activist for women's justice, Gloria Allred, who represented many of Epstein's victims. Gloria, thank you so much for your time. Were you surprised that Prince Andrew reached a settlement on this?
Well, most civil lawsuits end in a settlement prior to trial. In this case, not long after the lawsuit was filed and even before depositions, his testimony under oath, which was scheduled for next month, would be taken. Of course, we didn't know the settlement was coming today, but on the other hand, why not? Both sides decided to make peace. What's interesting to me about this settlement is that the words that are going to be spoken to the press have been very carefully crafted, every single word. So there are wins and there are losses. Now, for example, he admits, Prince Andrew, that Virginia was a victim of abuse. But what does he not say? He doesn't say by whom, he doesn't say when, and he doesn't say it was sexual abuse, and he certainly doesn't say that he is the one who victimized her with abuse. Now, on the downside, he has to pay what is likely to be millions of dollars. The exact amount or the amount at all is only characterized as substantial. We don't know how much that will be. and that is to her charity. It says nothing about whether additional amounts will be paid to her personally or will not be paid to her personally. So he does not admit guilt or liability. And that is also not uncommon for a civil settlement. I've done thousands of settlements civilly. Almost never does the defendant admit that he did anything wrong, that he is liable for any wrongful act or acts that are alleged by the accuser who claims to be the victim of his abuse.
Look, Gloria, Virginia has the right to do whatever she wants, but it seemed to us that she was absolutely adamant to take this to trial. What has happened? What has changed? Is it just the money that she's been offered? I mean, as an activist, were you disappointed it didn't go the whole way?
Not at all. I do represent 20 accusers of Jeffrey Epstein. I've represented a number of them in litigation and also in settlements. Look, each person has to decide for herself how much of a battle she's going to wage. And also she has to always understand the risks as well as the benefits of the battle. Yeah. There are many risks for both sides in any lawsuit. You know, there's no guarantee that a jury would find for Virginia or would find for Prince Andrew. What happens in the court of public opinion might or might not happen in a court of law when a jury, which is a group of strangers, gets to decide. So each side has decided they don't want to take the risk of a trial. And you know, her deposition would also have been taken. So both sides have decided they don't want the risks of their deposition, their testimony under oath, and, you know, disclosure of a lot of emails and direct messages and whatever else there are, photographs. So that they've reached a settlement, and that's fine as long as the victim or the accuser, in this case, who alleges she's a victim, is satisfied with the settlement, then she gets to have the settlement, and nobody should blame her for not taking the case all the way to trial.
No, and look, I think she needs to be applauded for taking the stand that she did. But I just sort of look at this, and I know, you know, some time ago she was saying that there'd be no deal unless he admits to what he's done. And obviously stuff's changed, and you can understand. I mean, she's also got kids, she's got a family, and the stress that all of this would have had on all of them. But it's sort of, does it go to show that, I mean, in some ways the system's broken, that victims reach a point where it does get too hard? And I look at this and deals that Jeffrey Epstein did years ago to keep victims silent. I look at this and go, has anything changed?
Well, I mean, you know, again, I do commend her for filing the lawsuit and litigating it. And, you know, a lawsuit is like war. And settlements are ordinarily confidential settlements. And even what was said today is usually not said publicly. But let's be clear. Even though there are settlements, a person who alleges she's a victim can always file a report with law enforcement, can always go to the police, and no settlement in the United States can ever prohibit a victim who agrees to a settlement from also going to law enforcement. And if law enforcement decides to file charges, she has every right to testify in a criminal case. So they have both options always open to them.
Do you know what, though? To me, the sad thing about this, and this happens in Australia regularly, that the victim of a crime, especially a sexual crime, right from the get-go, is not supported by the law. And right from the start, in terms of giving evidence, and all the way over to the States now where she's taken the payout. Good on Virginia for taking the payout because she didn't want to have to go through it. Look at her reputation being destroyed as well on the stand, that pressure. I mean, what protection is there for the victims out there right around the world, but especially right now in the United States and in Australia? What protection is there?
I would say in the court of public opinion, Karl, there is no protection. It's what we call the Wild West. people can say and whatever they want to say on the internet, and they do. And, you know, it can be vicious against people who allege they are victims, particularly of rich, powerful, famous men. And, you know, they're going to be accused of all kinds of things. Many such accusations are just false and hurtful to a victim. But once a victim is public, that's what she can expect, and she has to make that decision. Of course, there'll be many other, you know, persons who will support her as well, but it'll be war in the court of public opinion. In a court of law, her credibility can always be attacked by the person that she's suing, and she can always attack the credibility of the defendant as well. So yes, it's not pretty, it's ugly. It's like if you don't, you know, most people don't want to watch surgery on their heart or part of their bodies because there'll be a lot of blood. Well, there's a lot of blood in civil lawsuits and the war that goes on when people are trying to assert a claim or defend against an allegation. But now both sides are buying peace, and I wish them both best luck. And as to Prince Andrew, who is going to get this case dismissed, assuming that he pays, I hope that who in this press release is trying to position himself as a person who is fighting against victims, you know, against those who would sex traffic victims and supporting victims of sex trafficking and rape and sexual abuse. I hope he will do more than just words. I hope he will create his own charity and contribute millions to help victims in that effort as well. And by the way, he still hasn't talked to law enforcement as far as we know, and we know that federal prosecutors wanted to speak to him about what he observed or saw or did at Jeffrey Epstein's residences. Let's not forget that as far as we know, he never has done that. He's never spoken under oath to them, or even without an oath, has never given them an interview that they requested.
And maybe now we'll never know. Look, Gloria, we really appreciate you coming on, and you fight for so many women, you fight for so many victims. Thank goodness for you. We appreciate your time.
Good on you,
this
Gloria.
morning.
Keep fighting the fight.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
But I read that this morning, and part of me, like, you know, I'm really happy for Virginia that, you know,
whatever she wants to do.
What she wants to do. Yeah. It's not on that. But I just look at a system that is absolutely broken. And we've talked about for the last couple of days with, you know, what it takes for a woman to come forward. We see the prosecution rates. We see what happens to these women when you know, we're on the stand and what they wear and what they said, and, you know, it just gets broken down, and, you know, they get slut-shamed and everything else that goes with it. We need to be able to do more where these women are protected, so we can have more women come forward. We can see more convictions, and we just don't have cases like this. I don't see with this. Another case is settled. Another person gets away without saying what they did.
Well, and this guy, whatever he's done in his life, he was best mates with a trafficker. I mean, he is disgusting.
And still defended
Prince
him
Andrew
after he
is
was
disgusting.
charged.
He did it for years, right? It's disgusting. And at the end of the day, I mean, how many victims are out there? He can pay out the money, so he's fine, whatever. And it goes, right? And it's gone.
I mean, you know, it doesn't go away entirely for him, but
you make a good point. You make a great point about, you know, if a young woman is sexually abused in this country, how do they?
Why would you?
How do they go into a police interview? How do they go into a court proceeding? How do they go into multiple court proceedings?
You have to tell your story how many times to police, and you go into a court case and you have to stand up in court or by a video link. Then say it gets thrown out. There needs to be another trial. You've got to do it again, reliving it over and over again. There's got to be a system in place where women are protected.
I agree. Nothing is stacked in their favour at all. There's no support. Anyway, let us know what you think.